All right, people, I wanted to chime in on this brouhaha between Hilary Clinton and Tulsi Gabbard because I've had Tulsi Gabbard in this very studio in my garage right here. And as you probably heard, Hilary Clinton basically called Tulsi Gabbard, who is a congresswoman, a sitting congresswoman, a Democratic congresswoman from Hawaii. She basically called her a Russian asset. And if she is a Russian asset, that means I've had a Russian asset in my home. And then, by proxy, if you know how this stuff works, I might be a Russian proxy. I might be a Russian asset. Who the hell knows? So let's first get the exact quote from Hilary Clinton, because there seems to be a lot of confusion around this. Hillary was on a podcast. You've heard of those podcasts. Everyone's got them. And here's exactly what Hillary said. "I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who is currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third party candidate." Now, of course, she's talking about the Russians there. She does say grooming her, so we have some male candidates, some female candidates. And we really all know, everyone knows, even though she did not say Tulsi by name, that she is talking about Tulsi. How do we know this? Well, this is sort of an idea that has been thrown around by the Democratic establishment and by the media constantly lately. Just last week, there was an absolutely horrific, ridiculous, over-the-top, but par for the course article about Tulsi in the newspaper formerly known as the New York Times, where they said she's backed by Russian bots and the trolls and the alt-right. Oh, and that scary Joe Rogan, he's going to support her, and she's been on right-wing YouTube shows. Who could they be talking about? It was an absolute, complete smear job, and that's just standard stuff for the New York Times at the moment. So anyway, Tulsi, who I've had on the show. Let me just talk about her for just a moment. First off, I found her to be a completely lovely person. She strikes me as the closest thing that the mainstream Democrats have to an old school liberal, a JFK liberal, an old school Democrat like Daniel Patrick Moynihan, okay? The type of Democrat that maybe I used to be. I don't really think I am anymore, but somebody that has some of the basic ideas of classical liberalism, that the government isn't supposed to do absolutely everything. She isn't a woke progressive. She basically is against identity politics. If you haven't seen my hour-and-a-half interview with her, I highly recommend it. She isn't for late-term abortions. She thinks third-term abortions should be off the table. That was mainstream Democratic thought a decade ago, and now the Democrats, basically all the progressives, are open to abortion at any point. She talks about things like freedom and liberty and actually paying for things. These are all things we talked about in our interview. She has more of an isolationist foreign policy. You would think that would be a Democrat lefty idea, but apparently now that means you're a Russian asset. Now, the interesting thing here is some of Hillary's defenders, well, first off, they're saying that, no, she didn't really mean Tulsi, she was just saying something, but also that it's not just that she's an asset, meaning that she's working with or for the Russians, but she might just be the choice of the Russians because some of her policies align with what the Russians might want. That is an incredibly dangerous, slippery slope to take. That's like saying Rand Paul, because he's an isolationist, he must be a Russian asset too, because scaling back some of America's foreign influence, let's say in the Middle East, might be interesting to Russia. So obviously, Rand Paul from Kentucky, the Republican, much like the Hawaiian congresswoman from Hawaii, the Hawaiian congresswoman from Hawaii, that they're all Russian assets. It's all just silly nonsense. And also, let's not forget, because we seem to forget things these days very easily. We just spent quite literally 2.5 to 3 years claiming that Russia had hacked the election, remember that? And that Trump stole the election and worked with the Russians and all of these things. And guess what? None of it turned out to be true. None of it. So Hillary saying this, making this baseless accusation about Tulsi, now, unless she has some evidence of it, which we'd love to see, but as far as I know, there is no evidence of it, Her making this accusation says far more about what's going on with Hillary and the DNC establishment than it does with Tulsi. And again, I have some disagreements with Tulsi, and that's just fine. But I do think, generally speaking, if the Democrats want to hold on to any of the decent liberals, and maybe they don't, right? Maybe they just want to move on and just go far left progressive woke machine, and that's their choice if they want. But if they want to hold on to any of the decent liberals anymore, then they might want to look at somebody like Tulsi. So in many ways, Hillary handed Tulsi a gift here. But why would she go after her? Well, there's a lot of reasons for it, actually. It's not just that it's because Tulsi isn't completely woke. It's because Tulsi has been talking about the DNC corruption that everyone knows about. She did it right here. Watch this clip.
What's clear is that this system lacks transparency. The whole process is lacking transparency. And that's the change and that's the reform that I'm calling for from the DNC in this.
So, of course, we all know how corrupt the DNC has become. I mean, they basically rigged the 2016 election and stole it, in effect, from Bernie and handed it over to Hillary. We know that the former head of the DNC, Donna Brazile, while working for CNN, was giving Hillary debate questions. So these people are deeply, deeply corrupt. That doesn't mean Republicans aren't deeply corrupt and all of that, but we're just talking about the issue at hand here. So Hillary is pretty pissed at Tulsi because Tulsi is calling out the corruption. Tulsi didn't take this whole thing lying down, though. She sent out a firestorm of tweets, which I've got to read to you. She wrote, "Great, thank you, Hilary Clinton. You, the queen of warmongers, embodiment of corruption and personification of the rot that has sickened the Democratic Party for so long, have finally come out from behind the curtain. From the day I announced my candidacy, there has been a concerted campaign to destroy my reputation. We wondered who was behind it and why. Now we know it was you through your proxies and powerful allies in the corporate media and the war machine, afraid of the threat that I pose. It's now clear that this primary is between you and me. Don't cowardly hide behind your proxies. Join the race directly." So the last line there I actually think is the most interesting part. So first off, she's just throwing pure fire there, right? Like she's just not taking it, and I don't think Hillary really realized who she was going after. By the way, Tulsi Gabbard, who served twice in Iraq. I mean, she's a member of the armed services. To imply that she is somehow a Russian asset, or it's the height of stupidity and ridiculousness. But this idea that, you know, over the last couple weeks, Hillary's been getting into the media again and doing more interviews and showing up on the cable shows and showing up on The View and the rest of it. It's like, this really, I think, is giving you a little hint as to where the Democrats are at. I think they're starting to realize the Biden thing is just breaking down. It's just not working. It's in a way, it's very sad. I think Biden at his best could have been a more moderate Democrat. He's been just completely bamboozled by the woke thing, and he's literally saying that if you're a man who identifies as a woman, you should be allowed to go to a woman's prison. Like, it's what he said. It's not what the fact is, it's what you feel you should do. I mean, these are crazy positions. He's just lost in this party. He's lost by the progressives, right? It's just obvious. And now basically the Democrats are going, all right, we're going to go full socialist. It'll either be Bernie or Elizabeth Warren because the Biden thing isn't working. And Hillary, I have a feeling, if you ask me right now, I'm like, I would have said 5% a couple months ago, but I'm saying something like 25% chance that Hillary gets back in this thing. And then there will be an epic political war. All of this being said, I would say that this is actually good because it's unearthing some of the things that have to be unearthed. The Democrats have to decide which way they want to go. Do you want to go progressive woke? Do you want to buy into identity politics and collectivism and pin us all off on all of those immutable characteristics? I think you guys know how I feel about that. Or do you want to find some people like Tulsi who actually seem to love this country, who love the founding documents, who serve in the armed forces, all of these things? Now, you might have some disagreements with her. I think I have some disagreements with her on foreign policy. I think even the third-term abortion thing, for me personally, is a bit much. She's at least, right now, she's for the impeachment inquiry on Trump. I think it's ridiculous. She's, there's a series of other things. I think she wants more gun control than I want. I mean, there's just a couple things, but it's very obvious. And Glenn Beck said this to me, by the way, when I got back on the grid. He said, you know, it's very obvious that Tulsi Gabbard, even though I have some differences with her, loves this country. It's a little unclear to me what Hillary loves, other than the control and power she has over the DNC at the moment. So it's a real freaking mess, but I think it's a necessary thing that is happening right now. And for those of you that are Democrats, that are still Democrats, it's up to you. It's up to you, basically, to decide which way you want this party to go. Is it going to go to progressivism, or is it going to try to remain with some decent semblance of liberalism? I kind of think the ship has sailed and Tulsi's the last hope. And I also suspect that by the time the DNC and the Hillary machine is done with Tulsi and then done with Yang, that the two of them are going to go, whoa, maybe we're Republicans, because the Republicans seem pretty open and decent right now, or at least, let's say, the conservative side of things, or the more center-right part of this. Anyway, it's a really interesting thing that's going on here, and the political game is afoot. If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.